Hi guys, welcome back to another top 10 list. This time we're going to be doing the top 10 badass ladies of horror, which was our theme for a couple of months ago. Only one rule, I can only pick one character per franchise. Starting off with my number 10. My number 10 is Mia Allen, the woman in the Evil Dead remake. And she's in my number 10 because she spends most of the movie as the antagonist. As you know, she goes to a cabin in the woods with her friends to rehabilitate herself. She's a drug addict, so she's trying to isolate herself in the woods to kick her withdrawals. But she becomes possessed and kills off most of her friends during the film. So that's why she's my number 10. She does come back at the end. She gets buried, is close to dying or does die, but that uh, I guess wakes her up from her possession, and from then on she's a badass. She's able to run away from the demon, fight the demon. At one point, she has to rip off her arm because she's pinned down, and then kills off the bad guy. So that's pretty badass. That's my number 10. So my number 9 is Sarah Carter. She's the protagonist in the Descent movie. So she goes to an adventure with her friends. They go through exploring some caves, but there's a cave in, and they get trapped inside with these cave dwelling monsters that like to eat flesh. So she's able to fight off most these groups of monsters because she's a badass. This movie's a lot of fun. It's made my last top 10 list as well. And she's only at number 9 because she kind of abandons a human being at the end of the movie. The Juno character, I know she's kind of a jerk, but it's not very hero-like to leave someone behind. That's why she's my number 9. Number 8 is Kirsty Cotton. She's the hero from the first couple of Hellraiser movies. Yeah, so during the first movie, she gets attacked by her uncle. She survives that. She's able to summon these Cenobites, these demons, to help her take down her uncle. And at the very end of it, she's able to banish them again. So she can manipulate. She manipulated them into doing her bidding. Then once they turned on her, she was able to tell them to f off. And again, in the second movie, she'll display her intelligence. She's a very smart protagonist, and that's why she's my number 8. My number 7 is Maddie Young. She's the main character in the movie Hush. In this movie, she is a deaf person, and she's the victim of an armed home invasion. Initially, her main focus is to try to escape the house, try to escape the killer. And once she realizes that's probably not an option, she decides to defend herself. She does a really good job of that. At one point, she hurts her legs or her leg, and she taunts the killer with a message written in her own blood. So that's kind of badass. And yeah, she's at a physical disadvantage against this killer, and she's still able to kick his ass. So that's why she's awesome. My number 6 is Clarice Starling, the hero from Silence of the Lambs. She's an FBI student who gets assigned to a case. She has to meet with Dr. Hannibal Lecter, who is an imprisoned cannibal. And she has to persuade him in telling her about another serial killer that they're looking for, who was by Buffalo Bill. Lecter is never straight with her, kind of giving her tips that she has to decipher, which she's able to do that, and she's able to hunt down that serial killer. Spoiler alert. And yeah, she's just very smart, very strong character. My number 5 is Nancy Thompson. She's the hero from the Nightmare on Elm Street movie. She's a 16-year-old high school student who does battle with a demon who's able to invade and kill teenagers in their dreams. So if that's not badass enough, she's able to banish him at the end of the first movie. She does return in the third one, has a child therapist, and she meets with these kids who've been having these experiences with Freddy, and she shows them how to take control of their dreams, giving themselves sells powers, kind of superpowers that help them fight Freddy off. And Freddy does kill her in that third movie, but not before she stabs him with his own glove because she's a badass. My number 4 is Laurie Strode, the character from the Halloween franchise. If Laurie was just featured in the first two movies, she wouldn't have made this list because all she does in those ones is run, scream, hide, and she only defended herself when she was in any immediate danger. So that wouldn't have been enough to make this list. But the Laurie Strode from the later entries, that's who the badass is, especially H2O, if you've seen that one. She locks herself onto her property, her gated property, with the purpose of facing off with Michael Myers. And she does kick his ass in that film. Not in the Halloween Resurrection kind of way. But yeah, she's a badass in that one. And speaking of Resurrection, at the very start there, before she's killed off, she's able to like trap him. She tricks him, traps him. Doesn't go well for her, but she tried. And even in the new one from last year, there she's kind of a badass when she's not busy crying and wailing. She at the very end there she traps him again, and she just becomes this badass character in the later entries. My number 3 is Erin from You're Next. So if you've ever seen that movie, you don't need an explanation as to why she's a badass. She's an absolute wrecking ball in that film. She joins her boyfriend at his family's vacation home, where they're invaded by a group of animal masked killers, and she's the only one that seems competent in that situation at all. She absolutely dominates them, and it's just great fun to watch. She's an amazing character. I wish she'd make more appearances in sequels or any other kind of movie, really. She's super cool. And my number 2 is Sidney Prescott from the Scream franchise. And there's a reason why she's considered to be one of, if not the best final girl in all of horror movies. 4 times she has to deal with this shit. She's attacked by mass killers 4 different occasions, 4 different movies. And she's able to survive all of them. And she's such a model character, too. In the first one, she's a 17-year-old high school student dealing with this. The second one, she's 19 years old and in college. The third one, she's 21, I believe. She works as a women's crisis counselor or something like that. And the last one, she's in her 30s and she's writing self-help books. So none of these traumatic experiences ever held her down. And yeah, that's why she's a model character. She's a badass. And that leaves number 1. I'm sure you can guess who it is at this point, yeah. Number 1 is Ellen Ripley from the Alien franchise. So here's a lady in space who's doing battle with a creature she knows absolutely nothing about, and is able to survive it. And the second one, obviously, she's an absolute badass. Mech versus alien, anyone? And at the end of the third one, her self-sacrifice scene, just everything about her is brave, courageous. She's super strong and smart. That's why she's my number 1. So let me know what your top 10 is, if you have one. And who would you add in there? And I'll be coming back with another video here soon for top 10 horror of yore, our last month's theme. All the period pieces that I love. My top 10. Alright, have a good one, guys.